The gleaming titanium walls of Galactic Court Sector 7 hummed with the soft buzz of hovering translator drones as Judge Kim adjusted his ceremonial robe. The neural implant at his temple pulsed blue, connecting him to the vast legal database spanning 17 star systems. At 53, his face carried the weathered look of someone who'd seen too many disputes across too many worlds, but his eyes remained sharp, missing nothing. "Next case," he announced, his voice amplified through the chamber. The doors parted. With a pneumatic hiss, 2 security robots flanked a woman in a dark blue science uniform, her posture straight despite the circumstances. Dr. Park walked confidently to the defendant's platform, which rose smoothly from the polished floor. The holographic display above her head showed her credentials: Chief Xenobiologist, Earth Alliance, with clearance levels that would impress most military officials. Judge Kim barely glanced at them. "Dr. Park, you stand accused of violating Ordinance 472B, reckless operation of a spacecraft in a regulated zone. The orbital patrol recorded your shuttle traveling at dangerous speeds through the medical station ring." Dr. Park's expression remained composed, though her fingers tightened slightly around the edge of the platform. "Your Honor, I acknowledge exceeding the speed limit, but circumstances demanded immediate action. The courtroom's transparent ceiling revealed the slow orbit of medical ships above them. The space station served as both courthouse and emergency response hub for this sector of the galaxy. "The law makes no exceptions for haste, Dr. Park," Judge Kim said coldly. The neural implant at his temple flickered as he reviewed the evidence. "You endangered lives." "With respect, Your Honor, I was responding to containment breach in Labby. 12. We had reports of a Rigelian parasite escaping quarantine. These organisms can multiply exponentially within hours. If I hadn't—" Judge Kim raised his hand, silencing her. "The station's emergency protocols exist for a reason. You should have filed the proper clearances," the gallery murmured. A scaly diplomat from Proxima leaned toward his translator, whispering something that made the small robot's lights blink rapidly in surprise. Dr. Park's dark eyes remained fixed on the judge. "The system was down for scheduled maintenance. I made a judgment call that saved lives." Judge Kim's expression hardened. The courtroom fell silent as everyone watched the exchange. A maintenance robot quietly glided along the back wall, its sensors glowing soft amber. "Evidence suggests the containment breach was already being handled by on-site personnel," Judge Kim continued, though something in the report made him pause momentarily. "Your intervention, while perhaps well-intentioned, violated 3 separate safety protocols." Dr. Park straightened her shoulders. "I brought specialized equipment needed to neutralize the organism. The on-site team confirmed this in their report." From the gallery, a small blue-skinned child from the Andromeda colony watched with wide, fascinated eyes. His mother shushed him when he pointed excitedly at Dr. Park's uniform patches showing her expeditions to the outer worlds. "The court recognizes your expertise, Doctor," Judge Kim acknowledged, "but cannot allow exceptions based on individual judgment. Order must be maintained, especially in emergency situations." The holographic display shifted to show her shuttle narrowly weaving between 2 larger medical craft. The maneuver, while dangerous, showed remarkable piloting skill. Dr. Park stood her ground. "That parasite could have reached the civilian quarters within hours. We barely contained it as it was." She pulled up her sleeve, revealing a fresh scar running along her forearm. "This was from just 1 spore that escaped. Imagine hundreds, several—" Spectators shifted uncomfortably in their seats. A retired starship captain nodded approvingly at her words. Judge Kim studied the woman before him. Something about her dedication nagged at him, reminded him of himself in younger days, before decades of seeing rule-breakers claim good intentions had hardened his perspective. Still, rules existed for reasons. The space lanes around medical stations were strictly regulated after the Proxima incident claimed 12 ships last decade. Dr. Park, while your intentions may have been noble, this court cannot set a precedent that personal judgment overrides established protocol. His implant flashed as he calculated the fine. "The court imposes the maximum penalty of 50,000 credits. A collective gasp rippled through the gallery. The fine would take months of a scientist's salary to pay. Dr. Park's expression didn't change, though her jaw tightened slightly. She simply nodded, dignity intact. "I understand, Your Honor." Her voice remained level. "I would make the same decision again to protect those people." Their eyes met across the courtroom, and for just a moment, Judge Kim felt an unexpected sense of respect. He quickly suppressed it. "This case is closed," he announced, tapping his neural interface to record the judgment. As Dr. Park turned to leave, escorted by the security robots, whispers followed her. Several observers looked troubled by the verdict, while others nodded, in agreement with the judge's strict interpretation. Neither Dr. Park nor Judge Kim could have possibly known that in less than 48 hours, they would be thrown together in a mission that would test both their principles and prejudices, a mission that would change the course of human relations with the most mysterious species in the galaxy. Judge Kim's private quarters aboard the judicial station hummed with the soft buzz of the air recyclers. He sat at his desk, reviewing case files through his neural implant, while occasionally glancing out the viewport at the slow dance of starships against the velvet backdrop of space. A half-finished cup of synthetic coffee had gone cold beside him, forgotten hours ago. The soft chime of his communication panel interrupted his concentration. "Judge Kim, priority message from Galactic Command," announced the AI assistant. Kim frowned. Galactic Command rarely contacted judicial officers directly. "Display," he ordered. The holographic seal of the Earth Alliance materialized above his desk, rotating slowly before dissolving into the stern face of Admiral Lee, head of diplomatic operations. "Judge Kim," the Admiral nodded curtly. "Your service. Record has been reviewed at the highest levels. You've been selected for immediate reassignment to a first contact mission of critical importance." Kim straightened in his chair. "First contact? With respect, Admiral, I'm a legal specialist, not a diplomat." The Admiral's expression remained unchanged. "The Viridians have specifically requested legal representation in our delegation. They've observed our communications for decades, but have remained hidden. Now they've finally agreed to formal relations." Kim's pulse quickened. The Viridians were little more than rumors among most citizens, a supposedly advanced civilization that had somehow managed to avoid direct contact with humanity, despite sharing neighboring star systems. "A report to Briefing Room Alpha 7 at 800 tomorrow. The mission launches at noon. Security clearance documents are being transmitted to your implant now." The Admiral's image flickered. "This is not optional, Judge. Earth Alliance needs you." The transmission ended, leaving Kim staring at empty space where the hologram had been. His implant pinged as classified documents began downloading directly into his secure memory. The next morning, Kim walked briskly through the station's diplomatic wing, his formal robes replaced by the navy blue uniform of the Earth Alliance Diplomatic Corps. His neural implant guided him through 3 security checkpoints, each more stringent than the last. Armed guards with pulse rifles stood at attention outside the final doorway. "Identity confirmed." "Welcome, Judge Kim," announced the security AI as the massive doors slid open. The briefing room was smaller than he expected, dominated by a circular table surrounded by 8 chairs. 4 were already occupied: a military officer, 2 scientists in lab coats, and a humanoid robot that appeared to be a translator model. Admiral Lee stood as Kim entered. "Judge Kim, thank you for your prompt arrival. Please be seated. We're waiting on one final team member." Kim had barely settled into his chair when the doors slid open again. He turned, expecting another military official, and felt his stomach drop. Dr. Park walked confidently into the room, carrying a data tablet, and wearing the distinctive patch of the Xenobiology Elite Division. Her expression remained neutral until she spotted him. Then her eyes widened slightly, before her professional composure returned. "Dr. Park," the Admiral greeted her warmly, "thank you for joining us on such short notice. Your expertise will be invaluable." She nodded respectfully. "Happy to serve, Admiral." She took the only remaining seat directly across from Kim. Admiral Lee activated the central holographic display. A strange crystalline planet appeared, rotating slowly. "This is Viridia Prime, home to one of the most technologically advanced species we've ever encountered. yet they've chosen isolation. For centuries. Kim tried to focus on the briefing, but his mind kept returning to the courtroom 2 days ago. Dr. Park, the traffic violator he'd fined so severely, was actually important enough to be selected for humanity's most significant diplomatic mission in decades, the Admiral continued. Dr. Park's work on non-humanoid psychology makes her uniquely qualified to help establish communication protocols. Her recent containment of the Rigelian parasite outbreak saved countless lives and demonstrated the quick thinking we'll need for this mission. Kim felt a flush of embarrassment. The same incident he'd punished her for was apparently being celebrated by Galactic Command. The Viridians have requested we send individuals who understand both our laws and our biology, the Admiral explained. Judge Kim will outline our legal framework, while Dr. Park will address concerns about biological compatibility. The hologram shifted to display a sleek spacecraft. You'll be traveling aboard the Stellar Envoy, our newest diplomatic vessel. Journey time to Viridia, 3 days. As the briefing continued, Kim found his attention repeatedly drawn to Dr. Park. She asked insightful questions, annotated her tablet with remarkable speed, and showed none of the awkwardness he felt. Once their eyes met across the table, and her expression was unreadable. After the briefing, as the team gathered their materials, Kim approached her. "Dr. Park," he began stiffly, "I was unaware of your position when we met in court." She looked up from her tablet, her dark eyes steady. "Would it have made a difference, Judge?" Before he could respond, the ship's captain interrupted. "All personnel report to Docking Bay 12 in 1 hour. Packlight, quarters aboard the Envoy are compact." As the team dispersed, Kim caught a glimpse of Dr. Park's tablet. It displayed complex biochemical diagrams alongside what appeared to be Viridian communication patterns. Research far beyond what most xenobiologists could comprehend. In the corridor outside, a maintenance robot politely moved aside as Kim walked toward his quarters, his mind racing. He needed to prepare for the most important mission of his career, while reconciling the fact that his new partner was someone he'd wronged. Behind him, he heard Dr. Park talking animatedly with one of the scientists about the crystalline biology of the Viridians. Her voice carried the excitement of someone genuinely passionate about alien life, not the resentment of someone nursing a grudge. Perhaps, Kim thought as he reached his quarters, this mission would be even more challenging than making first contact with an alien species. He would have to confront his own prejudices first. The diplomatic vessel Harmony cut silently through the star-speckled void, its polished hull reflecting distant suns as it followed the charted course to Viridia. Inside, the ship hummed with the quiet efficiency of advanced technology, but the atmosphere in the main lab was anything but harmonious. Judge Kim stood with arms crossed, watching Dr. Park carefully extract glowing fluid from what appeared to be a pulsating plant sample. "Your method violates Safety Protocol 47B, he noted, his voice clipped. "Specimens should be handled in a Level 3 containment field." Dr. Park didn't look up from her work. "This Viridian moss dies in Level 3 fields. Its bioluminescent properties are crucial to understanding their communication methods." She carefully transferred the droplet to a scanner. Sometimes rules need flexibility when dealing with the unknown. Kim's jaw tightened. 3 days into their journey, and every conversation somehow circled back to their fundamental disagreement. Flexibility invites disaster. The regulations exist for good reason. The ship's AI interrupted their brewing argument. "Approaching Sector 87C. Unusual energy readings detected." Captain Yoon's voice came through the comm system. "All personnel to secure stations. Unidentified vessel approaching rapidly." Kim and Park exchanged a brief glance before hurrying to the bridge. Through the massive view screen, they watched a sleek, predatory craft emerge from behind a small moon, its engines glowing an ominous red. "Pirates," Captain Yoon said grimly. "Aculan raiders, by the look of their ship design." The tactical officer's hands flew across her console. "They're jamming our communications and targeting our engines." The first blast rocked the Harmony, sending Kim stumbling against the wall. Warning lights flashed as the ship's AI announced, "Hull breach in Section 4, shields at 60%. "They're not trying to destroy us," Dr. Park said, studying the attack pattern on a secondary screen. "They're trying to disable us," Captain Yoon nodded. "The diplomatic codes and Viridian contact protocols would be worth a fortune on the black market." Another hit sent sparks flying from an overhead panel. "Shields at 30%. We cannot sustain this assault," the AI reported calmly. "Options?" Kim demanded. Captain Yoon's expression was grim. "Most of the crew can use the main escape vessels, but someone needs to take the diplomatic package through the smaller emergency pod. It's less detectable, but only fits two." "We'll do it, Doctor," Park said immediately, glancing at Kim. "The Judge and I are the core of the diplomatic mission." Before Kim could protest, the ship lurched violently. "Direct hit to engine core. Catastrophic failure imminent," the AI announced. "Go," Captain Yoon ordered. "Pod Bay 3, we'll create." A diversion. Kim and Park raced through the corridors as the ship shuddered around them. Crew members rushed past, heading for their evacuation stations. At Pod Bay 3, Dr. Park quickly input her access code while Kim retrieved the diplomatic package. A small, heavily encrypted data core containing everything needed for first contact. "Hurry," she called as the door to the tiny pod slid open. They barely squeezed inside before the automatic launch sequence engaged. Through the small viewport, they watched the Harmony deploy countermeasures, drawing the pirate vessel away as their pod shot in the opposite direction. "Stealth systems engaged," the pod's simple AI announced, setting course for nearest safe harbor. They felt a massive shockwave as something catastrophic happened behind them. Kim turned to see the Harmony's engine section erupting in a controlled detonation, a desperate measure to prevent the pirates from capturing the ship. "Captain Yoon sacrificed the ship," he whispered. Dr. Park's eyes were fixed on the sensor readings. "The other escape pods are away, life signs detected, but the pirate vessel is still functional and searching." Their pod shuddered as it entered, the atmosphere of a small moon. "Warning, guidance systems compromised. Prepare for emergency landing." Kim gripped the safety harness as the pod plummeted through clouds of swirling purple gas. The temperature inside rose alarmingly as their outer shields fought against the friction of entry. "We're coming in too steep," Dr. Park shouted, trying to manually adjust their trajectory. The pod broke through the cloud layer, revealing a landscape of towering crystal formations and luminescent forests. For a brief moment, both forgot their peril, awed by the alien beauty. Then, reality returned as the pod skimmed the top of a crystal spire, sending them spiraling toward the ground. The last thing Kim remembered was Dr. Park throwing herself across the diplomatic package, protecting it with her body as they hit. He awoke to the taste of blood and the sound of rhythmic beeping. The pod lay at an angle, emergency lights casting an eerie red glow over the crumpled interior. Dr. Park was already conscious, applying a medkit patch to a gash on her forehead. "Status?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "Pod's communication array is destroyed. Life support operational but limited. External atmosphere technically breathable but contains unknown compounds." She nodded toward the small viewport, now cracked, but intact. "And we have company." Kim pulled himself up painfully to look outside. In the strange twilight of the alien moon, 6-legged creatures with translucent skin circled their crashed pod, their internal organs visible as pulsing shadows. Each was the size of a large dog, with multiple eyes that reflected the pod's emergency. "Lights, curious rather than immediately hostile," Dr. Park observed, "but they're calling others." Kim checked the diplomatic package, intact, thanks to Dr. Park's quick action. Then he examined their supplies: 1 survival kit, 2 emergency environment suits, 3 days of rations, and a single multi-tool. "The pirates will be scanning for us," he said quietly. Dr. Park nodded, already packing the essential supplies into a portable container. "We need to move away from the crash site, find natural shelter." As Kim helped gather their limited resources, he noticed Dr. Park wincing when she reached for the water purifier. "You're injured." "Broken rib, probably," she admitted. "Nothing. The medkit can't temporarily stabilize." Outside, more creatures had gathered, some significantly larger than the first group. One massive specimen tested the pod's hull with an appendage that looked disturbingly like a natural cutting tool. Kim made a decision. "We leave in 5 minutes. I'll carry the diplomatic package. You focus on staying mobile with that injury." For the first time since their journey began, Dr. Park didn't argue. She simply nodded, and in that moment of shared danger, something shifted between them. Not quite trust, but the beginning of a necessary alliance. 3 days of trudging through the alien landscape had taken its toll. Judge Kim's pristine uniform was now torn and stained with purple mud, while Dr. Park's breathing remained labored from her injured rib. They had managed to evade the crystal-backed predators that hunted in the lowlands, but their supplies were dwindling fast. "The signal's getting stronger," Dr. Park said, studying the small scanner she'd salvaged from the crash. "Definitely artificial, could be part of the harmony that broke away during the attack." Kim nodded, conserving his energy as they climbed a ridge of glittering black stone. The moon's twin suns beat down, casting double shadows that constantly disoriented them. In the distance, floating islands of rock hovered mysteriously above a misty canyon, defying the laws of physics as Kim understood them. "We should rest," he suggested, noticing how Dr. Park pressed her hand against her side. The medical patch she'd applied had started to peel away, its effectiveness fading. She shook her head stubbornly. "Signals just over this ridge. If it's a communication array, we can't afford to wait." As they crested the ridge, both froze in astonishment. Before them lay a small structure that couldn't possibly be human in origin. It seemed to grow from the landscape itself, with walls of living crystal that pulsed with internal light. Surrounding it were perfectly geometric gardens of bioluminescent plants, arranged in complex mathematical patterns. "That's not from our ship," Kim whispered. "No," Dr. Park agreed, eyes wide with scientific wonder. "It's Viridian architecture, exactly like the theoretical models based on our limited observations." She checked her scanner again. "The signals coming from inside, they..." approached cautiously. The structure had no visible doors or windows, just seamless crystal walls that hummed softly, as if alive. "How do we get in?" Kim wondered aloud. As if in response to his question, a section of the wall simply dissolved, revealing an entrance. Warm light spilled out, along with a scent like cinnamon and ozone. "They know we're here," Dr. Park whispered. "This is deliberate." Kim's hand moved to the small defense weapon they'd salvaged from the escape pod. "Could be dangerous." Dr. Park gently touched his arm. "We came for first contact. This appears to be it." After a moment's hesitation, Kim nodded. Together they stepped through the opening into a chamber that seemed larger inside than physically possible. The walls shifted with colors that had no names in human language, while the floor beneath their feet felt somehow both solid and fluid. In the center of the room stood a being unlike anything in Earth's records. Nearly 2 meters tall, it had a crystalline exoskeleton that refracted light in hypnotic patterns. Where a face might be was a swirling vortex of luminous particles, constantly rearranging themselves. "Welcome, humans," said a voice directly, in their minds. "We have awaited your arrival with great interest." Kim felt his thoughts being gently examined, like fingers rifling through pages of a book. Beside him, Dr. Park gasped, no doubt experiencing the same sensation. "You're Viridian," she managed to say, "but we're nowhere near Viridia Prime. How are you here?" The being's crystalline form shimmered. "This is an observation post. One of many throughout this sector. I am Keeper, tasked with studying potential contact species." 3 more Viridians emerged from what had appeared to be solid walls, each slightly different in crystal formation and color. They moved with fluid grace, defying their seemingly rigid structure. "We don't understand," Kim said carefully. "Our mission was to make first contact with your species on Viridia Prime. How did we end up here?" The being called Keeper gestured, and a holographic display appeared in the air between them. It showed the pirate attack on the Harmony, but from an external perspective that revealed a small Viridian vessel hiding in the shadow of a nearby asteroid. "The attack was genuine," Keeper explained. "The pirates were not our agents, but we influenced your escape pod's trajectory. We needed to see how you would behave in crisis." Dr. Park's eyes narrowed. "You've been testing us? People died on that ship?" "No. another Viridian corrected, its mental voice gentler, more feminine somehow. All escape vessels were recovered by our ships. Your crewmates are safe, though unaware of our involvement. Kim processed this information with growing indignation. You had no right to interfere with our mission or put us in danger. Yet it revealed much, Keeper responded. Your species fascinates us. You are physically fragile, yet remarkably adaptable. Your societies have rules and hierarchies, yet you constantly question and challenge them. The female-presenting Viridian approached Dr. Park. You protected the diplomatic package with your body during the crash, despite knowing this one had treated you unfairly. She then turned to Kim. And you, despite your rigid adherence to rules, chose to help her when she was injured rather than prioritize your mission. Kim felt uncomfortably exposed under their telepathic scrutiny. That's basic human decency. No, Keeper corrected. It is evolution beyond mere survival instinct. It is why we have watched your species with such interest. A holographic display appeared, showing hundreds of human interactions the Viridians had observed over decades. Moments of conflict, cooperation, forgiveness, and growth. We needed representatives who could demonstrate how humans resolve internal conflicts, the female Viridian explained. Your species is divided by countless differences, yet you find ways to cooperate. So you specifically chose us? Dr. Park asked incredulously. Because we had a courtroom disagreement? Keeper's crystalline form shimmered in what might have been amusement. We observed your interaction. The judge's strict adherence to rules despite understanding your good intentions. Your respect for authority despite disagreeing with the judgment. We needed to see if these traits would hold under pressure, added another Viridian, or if you would fracture into blame and discord when faced with danger. Kim suddenly understood. Your species doesn't have conflict? We have perfect telepathic harmony, Keeper explained. Individual thought is instantly shared through our collective consciousness. Disagreement is extremely rare, but it has made us stagnant, unable to adapt. The female Viridian moved closer. We wish to learn from humans how to disagree productively, how to challenge without destroying, how to evolve through conflict rather than consensus. Dr. Park looked at Kim, then back at the Viridians. So this entire crisis was an elaborate interview process? Yes, said Keeper simply. And you have both performed admirably. The true diplomatic mission can now begin. As the Viridians prepared to reveal more of their secrets, Kim caught Dr. Park's gaze. In that moment of shared understanding, he realized their differences, her flexibility versus his structure, weren't weaknesses to be corrected, but complementary strengths that had brought them through the challenge. The Viridians had been right about one thing. Humans did know how to grow through conflict. And perhaps that knowledge was the most valuable resource they could offer to the galaxy. The Grand Assembly Hall on Viridia Prime shimmered with living light, its crystal walls shifting colors with the collective emotions of the gathered delegates. Judge Kim stood at the ceremonial platform alongside Dr. Park, facing representatives from 17 species across the Galactic Alliance. Behind them towered Keeper and 3 elder Viridians, their crystalline forms casting rainbow patterns across the assembled dignitaries. The human capacity for growth through conflict rather than despite it is their greatest strength. Keeper's telepathic voice resonated in everyone's mind. Our observation test confirmed what we had long suspected. Their differences drive their evolution. Admiral Lee stepped forward, still visibly processing the revelation that the lost diplomatic mission had instead become the most significant first contact in Earth's history. The Earth Alliance is honored by your trust in us, especially after such unconventional beginnings. Kim felt a gentle mental nudge from the Viridians, his cue to speak. He'd prepared formal remarks, but looking at Dr. Park beside him, he set them aside and spoke from his heart instead. When Dr. Park first stood in my courtroom, I saw only rules broken, not lives saved, he began, his voice carrying through the perfect acoustics of the crystal chamber. I imposed the harshest penalty because I believed order must always prevail. Over judgment. I was wrong. Murmurs rippled through the delegates. A judge admitting error was rare enough to catch attention. The Viridians chose us precisely because we represented opposing approaches, Kim continued. Dr. Park's willingness to bend rules when lives are at stake balanced against my insistence on structure and order. Neither approach is inherently superior. They complement each other. Dr. Park stepped forward, the healing accelerator the Viridians had provided now allowing her to move without pain. What Judge Kim isn't saying is that when our pod crashed and I was injured, he immediately set aside our differences. He could have prioritized the diplomatic package, but instead chose to help me first. She smiled at him before addressing the assembly. The Viridians have evolved perfect telepathic consensus, but they've recognized something profound. Without productive disagreement, advancement slows. What looks like chaos in human interaction is actually our greatest engine of progress. The Viridian known as Luminance, who had been studying human art and emotion, created a spectacular light display above the assembly, scenes of human history showing moments of conflict, followed by reconciliation and growth. We propose an exchange, Keeper announced. Viridian technology in return for human instruction in productive conflict resolution. Your diplomatic team has already demonstrated the value of this exchange. After the formal proceedings, Kim and Park found themselves in a quiet observation dome, overlooking Viridia's crystalline landscape. 3 moons hung in the purple sky, their gravitational dance creating spectacular aurora effects in the upper atmosphere. I never properly apologized, Kim said quietly. For the courtroom, for the fine. Dr. Park shook her head. You were doing your job as you understood it. That's just it, he replied. I didn't consider that rules sometimes need flexibility. When you broke traffic regulations to stop that parasite outbreak, you weren't being reckless. You were making a necessary judgment call. A small hovering robot approached with refreshments, a Viridian beverage that tasted different to each person based on their biochemistry and preferences. The Viridians' proposal for reform of the galactic legal system is fascinating, Doctor. Park said after a moment. Having you lead it makes perfect sense. Kim hadn't yet fully absorbed the scale of what was being suggested, a complete redesign of interstellar justice, incorporating both firm principles and situational wisdom. They want you to head the biological exchange program too. She nodded, watching a flock of crystal-winged creatures soar past the dome. Ironic, isn't it? The judge becomes the reformer, the rule-breaker becomes the ambassador. 3 months later, the diplomatic vessel Harmony 2 entered Earth orbit to a hero's welcome. News broadcasts across 17 planets carried images of the triumphant return. The diplomatic team had expanded to include Luminance, the first Viridian to officially visit Earth. At the formal reception at Galactic Command Headquarters, Admiral Lee raised a toast to unexpected beginnings and extraordinary results. Later, as advanced Viridian medical technology was being demonstrated to Earth's top scientists, Kim found Dr. Park standing alone on a balcony overlooking the rebuilt judicial complex. The new contextual judgment system goes online tomorrow, he told her. No more rigid penalties without considering circumstances. Every judge will have a scientific advisor to provide context, she smiled. And my team leaves for Viridia next week. 20 scientists ready to learn how crystal consciousness might be applied to human medicine. A sleek, diplomatic shuttle crossed the evening sky, its new hybrid engines, human design with Viridian power sources, leaving a trail of prismatic light. They're calling us the bridge builders in the media, Kim said with a slight smile. A bit dramatic, but not inaccurate, Dr. Park replied. The Viridians needed to learn how productive disagreement leads to growth. Maybe we needed to learn that sometimes opposite approaches can both be right. 1 year after their crashed landing on that distant moon, Judge Kim stood before the newly formed Galactic Judicial Council. The circular chamber contained representatives from 23 species, including the crystalline forms of 3 Viridian observers. Today we implement the adaptive justice protocols across all member worlds, he announced. A system that honors both the structure of law and the wisdom of context. Across the galaxy, Dr. Park led the opening of the Institute for Interspecies Advancement, where the Viridian concept of collective consciousness was being carefully adapted for therapeutic applications in trauma healing. The once reclusive Viridians had become key members of the galactic community, their technological gifts revolutionizing medicine, transportation, and communication. In return, they had gained something they valued even more: the human art of productive disagreement. Two people from opposite approaches had built a bridge between worlds, proving that sometimes the greatest discoveries come not from harmony, but from learning to value the space between different truths. The end.